Today we're editing this photo. Here's a sneak peek of the before and after. It's a long exposure shot. Let me show you what it's like without the anti-filter. I put the exposure details up here for your reference. This is the JPEG straight out of the camera. Typical sunset, rich, bright orange color. Then I decided to set up a long exposure shot for the rest of the evening. So this shot was taken 7 minutes later. I used a 10-stop anti-filter to cut down the light. With the smallest aperture, I was able to get 15 seconds of exposure. The majority of the sea surface has smoothened. As you can see, the colors are a bit washed out in this WAV file. So what we are going to do is to intensify the colors. Here we are in Adobe Lightroom Classic. First step, balance the highlights and recover the shadows. The reason for that is it gives us more leeway for further edits down the line. When I bring up the shadows, you don't see much noise, because the raw files has stored tonal details for us to use. The next step, enhance contrast and colors. We'll move on to the tone curve. Here, in the second panel, we add 3 control points, one on the mid-tone, one on the highlights, and one on the shadows. Make an S-curve by increasing the highlights and decreasing the shadows. Bring up the midtones a little bit. Let me just pause here. You might wonder why we adjust the highlights and shadows in the basic panel and in the tone curve. Isn't that counterintuitive? If we go back to the very first version and compare, you'll see the details are revealed. Why do we adjust the brightness before color grading? Good question, because the brightness and colors are related. When we adjust the contrast, the colors look saturated already. With that out of the way, let's continue. Now we are on to the RGB curves, red, green, and blue individually, because each color pixels consists of these 3 colors. When we pull up the blue curve, that means we are adding blue color in the midtone. Let's go over to the red curve. Add red to the highlights and midtones. And in the green curve, add magenta to the highlights by bringing the control point downward. Just like that, the gradient becomes purple and pinkish. If you're happy with this tone, you can stop here and call it a day. I'd like to take this opportunity to show you more functions and options in Lightroom, so stick around if you're interested. The thing about editing is that it's easily over-edited. So I like to go back and forth to check the before and after, see if the edit is natural. In the raw edit, there's some blue tone in the sky. Let's try to enhance that. Go to Mask, select Color Range Mask. Notice the cursor turns into the eyedropper. So click on the area you like to select. Once it's selected, it shows the red overlay for your reference. Now go to the temperature slider and make it blue. You can also explore other options, like make the shadow darker and see how it affects the saturation. If it looks too purple, you can add some green to balance it out. Tap on the backslash key to check before and after. If you're happy with it, you can stop here. I think it's a little bit different from the original orange color, so I'm going to make some adjustments. Go to the blue curve, drag the mid-tone down a little bit. That's more like it. A tiny tweak on the curve can completely shift the tone. Enough for the sky. Next, we'll move on to the water. The color range mask we made, it picked up some of the water. We can clean it up by subtracting it from the mask. Pick up a brush, click on the show overlay, adjust the brush size, and start to erase. Next, we add some colors to the water. Create a new mask, linear gradient mask. Click on the bottom part of the image and drag it up. Change the color temperature to a warmer tone. Maybe add some magenta too. Feel free to adjust the mask, make sure it covers the entire sea surface. The color grading part is done. The rest of the process will be focused on tidying up minor details. Go to the Detail panel. By default, Lightroom adds sharpening to photos you import. I don't hate it, but I'll try to limit the area just to the edges. Here's the masking slider. Hold the Option key or Alt key on your keyboard and drag it to the right. You see the black and white outlines. That's the edge sharpening. Let's add some noise reduction to the luminance. Just a tiny bit. The last step, spot removal. That's for cleaning up the dust or dirt on your lens or sensor. Check the before and after. I still think the blue sky is a little bit unnatural. I might dial it back later. And that's how I edit a long exposure shot. Hope you enjoyed this long video and the commentary. Thank you for watching.